Good afternoon, members, and welcome to the meeting of the Police Fire and Rescue Subcommittee. We're fortunate to have Andy from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and we've got a buy one, get one free from the police. We've got two superintendents with Nicola and Jim here today. This meeting will be live streamed and recorded and will be made available for viewing through the Council's website. Can I remind members to follow the good practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off their video when you're not addressing the meeting. Those of you attending virtually who wish to contribute to any item, you should write speak in the Teams chat function and you will be invited to speak in order about the new issues. Should your question or issue be raised by a previous speaker, please withdraw your request so that it could deal with the business as efficiently as possible. The usual standing orders apply, including any votes will be undertaken by a roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting for any reason, can I remind you to either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time, or you could write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you come back in. And that way it will allow us to record member presence and to make sure that we are quorate. We have a couple of important reports to consider today and anticipate that we'll deal with them in the usual efficient manner. Members will recall that I emailed all members on my decision to accept specific questions on each of the two services. And these were to be emailed to me by the 19th of June in order that the officers concerned can research the issues and provide the appropriate response today, rather than having to revert back later. I appreciate this is a new experiment we're trying. I could say it is in no way it's trying to restrict discussion on any item, and members are still more than welcome to ask any question that they wish during the meeting. I can say that we've had two specific questions for the Police Scotland, and I'll take them at the end of the item before we go to the recommendations. Andy has been let off light today that there's nothing for the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Fraser, could you provide the said and any apologies, please?
Yep, thanks, Chair. So we've got 5 members in person, being yourself, Chair, Councillors Bell, Barretti, Jimison, and Councillor Stitt. We've got 5 members on Teams, being Councillors Dorward, Hill, Howie, McFarlane and Slater, and 1 member not present at the start of the meeting, being Councillor Crothers.
Thank you for that. I approve the members' remote participation. Do we have any declarations of interest or statement in connection that anyone wants to make? Nope. If we could go to the minutes of the meeting on the 7th of December, and this is for noting. Right. Before we go on to item 4, the Police Scotland local plan annual update, it was probably remiss of me to say I hope we all enjoyed the presentation from the fire service volunteers. I thought it was fascinating, and the depth and the organisation that's gone into it. It's certainly a very worthwhile project. Today, as I said, we have Nicola and Jim from Police Scotland to answer any questions that you may have. Is there anything you would like to add to your report?
Good afternoon, and thanks very much for the warm welcome today. I'm going to take it that members of the committee have read the report, but if I could just kind of advise first that this report does take into consideration analysis of a slightly shorter reporting period of the 11 months of data, and this was due to timescales of this meeting and also the data embargo for the Police Authority Scrutiny Board. So what we will look at, hopefully this was a one-off, and we will be looking at the 12-month data going forward for this report. So the report, as I say, we'll take it as read. So a couple of wee things I just wanted to bring out from the executive summary is round about violent crime being up 3.5% and robbery being at a 6-year high. I think it's really important to put those that information out there. What I would like to put a bit of kind of reassurance around that is the governance processes which we have put in place to address these. So we have now a divisional violence prevention group, which is meeting on a monthly basis and is chaired by our local detective chief inspector. The focus of this group is going to be, or is on reduction and prevention, and also looking at the development of intervention and investigation tactics. Whilst robbery is at a 6-year high, I also think it's important to show that most robberies that are occurring in Dumfries and Galloway are between victims and perpetrators who know one another. There's no specific hotspots or areas in the division which cause concern. There's a number of cases where there's been no intention to rob from the outset. However, circumstances have unfolded, which is then presented that opportunity of which we will record properly and investigate. We've also got an increase in common assaults, which is increased by 3.7% on the 5-year average. Again, 48% of our assaults are occurring within residential premises, which makes it, as you can understand, quite a challenge to kind of police behind closed doors. We've also got our common assaults of emergency workers, and this is an area we're focused on in terms of our own police staff and police officers, but also those from our emergency service colleagues. So we've had 209 recorded in the time period, which is a 3.9% reduction on the 5-year average. However, 187 of those are on police officers and staff, and 22 of those are on emergency workers. I would also like to present an anomaly which in the data papers there. So in terms of the road safety data presented, whilst the title page is correct that we had 3 further deaths on the previous year, the sections on page 22 are incorrect, and it should be that the road fatalities have increased by 3 and the serious injuries are down. So that was a slight amendment which we will make sure that that is picked up on going forward. Also, in terms of acquisitive crime, I think it's important to note that fraud continues to increase, and fraud has increased by 23.4% in that reporting period. Crimes of fraud, as you all are aware, are becoming more and more complex, very much cyber-enabled. Frauds are the most common. These are including using phones, text scams, computer infiltration, where victims are clicking onto links and being contacted by people purporting to be from banks. Now, we know that, and the kind of demographic we're looking at is persons over the age of 65 are most commonly targeted. And again, through the Public Protection Partnership, financial harm is a priority within the partnership group, of which we've got a financial strategy to deal with that. I'd also like to kind of point out the significant increase in hate crime, 36.8%. And again, as members of the committee will know, this is a result not of the introduction of the Hate Crime Act. But what I probably want to be able to say is that when we're looking at hate crime as a whole, in terms of the numbers, Dumfries and Galloway is still a welcoming place to come and be part of that community. So 45% of crimes relate to race, 29% of crimes relate to sexual orientation, 13% to disability, 9% to religion, and 4% to transgender identity. So in terms of that, it's the data, and obviously I'll invite questions just shortly, but I wanted to kind of talk on some of the areas, if you'd welcome, about what we're kind of focusing on over the next wee while. So I can confirm now that the implementation of the body-worn cameras that will come to Dumfries and Galloway will be rolled out in spring 2025 down here, which is a really welcome addition. I know at the last PFRC there was a question around complaints about the police, and that there hadn't been any data. So I would like to present that data in person today to say that there's been 232 complaints made about the police in the time period recorded, which is a reduction of 1.28% on the previous year. We've also got the proportionate response to crime provisions, which actually started today. So we've now got a daily governance in place around that, and to make sure that local supervisors still have the autonomy to investigate and make sure that crimes are being investigated and recorded properly. And we would also give an update on how that progress is going after the input that the councillors had around this. And also we've got recruitment drive has been very positive. We've got 14 new officers coming in the coming months, which is excellent. And probably more for interest as well, is that there was concerns at the last meeting around voluntary retirement or redundancy in retirement. So I can confirm that we've released one member of police staff from Dumfries and Galloway as a minimum, and that will be at the moment, sorry. And the other news, and finally, is about the new divisional commander. So we are hopeful that the new divisional commander interviews will be taking place this week, and then with a short announcement thereafter. So that's the probably update I just wanted to give in terms of what we're up to, and welcome any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jim. Open to members for questions. Councillor Bell.
Thanks, Chair. Obviously, quite an interesting report you've shown us here. Obviously, you mentioned about the complaints, the 232 complaints were made against Police Scotland and that. How many of these, is there any way, a breakdown, sorry Alex, maybe we're just jumping the gun here a wee bit, how many went further in stage 1? Have you any indication that maybe, because normally people make complaints against the council and sometimes they're finished at stage 1,
yeah,
and then they go into stage 2 and 3. If you go to Scottish Government, it's 1, 2, 3, and then you take them to court.
Yeah, so the data I've got at the moment doesn't present what the outcomes are, but I can get that for you as we're looking at engaging with professional standards. What I can tell you is that there's been 223 allegations of officers on duty. There's been no allegations of officers when they've been off duty, and we've had 88 which relate to allegations of quality of service. Now, in all of that, as you present, is that it's more than 232, that number. So one complaint can have multiple allegations against it. But Councillor Bell, I'll take that away and we'll get that report. And I think it's really useful to have that as an outcome for further reporting.
Thanks. Through the Chair, but possible to go to all committee members so that we can get a full breakdown. Obviously, you didn't touch on shoplifting. Obviously, there's a bit of a rise in shoplifting and that. Are you still working with intelligence-led with local shopkeepers and businesses? And, are you still working on that sort of weekly or daily basis, where we've got a hot spot in the area?
Yeah, so we're really lucky across the area having town centre officers and community officers who are very, very visible in the area and going into shop premises. So yeah, we are engaging a lot with shopkeepers. I think one of the other things we're looking at is the national picture, because we're now seeing a lot of travelling criminals coming from down south into the area to commit acts of crime and then move away. And then some of these can be quite challenging as well because of the kind of rail network and things. So there is a national picture to this as well, which we've got our officers engaged in to understand.
Thank you for that. Councillor Jameson.
That's it now, right. A couple of questions, if you bear with me. But first of all, it's a compliment. At recent Annan Community Council, it was reported that youth antisocial behaviour had reduced. And I asked the question, was that through a policy and initiative? And it was. So the local police had targeted some of the, if you like, the leaders and separated them from the hangers-on, and it seems to be really successful. So that's an excellent initiative. I don't want to be patronising at all, but it seems to work, and that's great. And it's credit to whoever took up that initiative and followed it through, because it's easy to talk about these things, but actually to deliver them, it's much harder. There must be good communications across the board, so that's great. The other thing I want to touch on is customer satisfaction and response time in particular. These are the things that crop up reasonably frequently. And just as an example, response times to incidents in schools. incidents of violence in schools. And one of the themes, the strategic outcome, is get it right for every child. We know there's increased violence in schools between pupils and with staff and such like. And certainly in a situation in an academy, it got really out of hand where there was 3 young people that had been excluded from another school and turned up during the day, etc., and caused a lot of anxiety and physical damage. And teachers find it difficult to manage that because these are big lads, etc. And we have an excellent community police officer, Annan, which is quite small. And when that particular issue occurred, the response time was slow. And also the actual investigation was slow. And I know you've got a lot of pressures of time, but I just wonder if you're aware of that, which I'm sure you are, and if there's anything we can do to address that.
Yeah, I think that, as you can imagine, we're always reviewing incidents. So what, on a daily basis, as part of myself and Nicola's job, is to have a morning meeting where we review all the 24-hour incidents and actually make sure that there has been a good service delivered. Now, one of the things that we will look at is where there is learning from this. Now, for that particular incident, without going into and knowing the full details, is that we are really up against lots of demands at the moment in terms of people looking for us. And again, when people do phone 101 or 999, the prioritisation is elsewhere than in the division. And then that then replicates into lots of where our resources are doing and what they're dealing with at the moment of time to actually get there. Now, the fortuitous thing we have is we do have youth engagement officers, and I think some of the advice that that our youth engagement officers in the schools are saying to staff is, if in any doubt at all that they are unsafe, then they take a step back, they call the police, and we will deal with it. Now, retrospectively, we will have to deal with some of this as well, so that there will be investigations, there will be reasons why it sometimes we can't investigate within, so many minutes, days, hours. It's actually, again, due to kind of prioritisation of things. But I mean, I'd welcome the opportunity to kind of talk through if there's actual specifics that you would wish to talk through, and we'd just be able to discuss that.
Yeah, that would be really helpful, because I know it's a concern at quite a lot of schools, and parents were really quite concerned, and they had every sympathy for the police, but it was just, it may be that the schools have a direct line to something or other, because it can get out of hand very, very quickly. Yeah. So it might be worth delving into what can actually be a wee bit more reassuring. Okay. The second question I'd like to ask, with your permission, is drugs. The drug supply and possession, drug charges are down by 26.8% against the 5-year average. Drug possession charges are down by 30.8%. My query is this: we've got a really serious drug issue and it's not getting any better. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, the counterintuitive that these figures have gone down, are we just catching less people? Are we being sort of more tolerant to young people that are using drugs? It's a very, very complex issue, and the police are only part of that. And I know, and I've asked these questions before, and I know that if you do find youths abusing drugs, that you tend to try and pass them on to the respective services. So my question is, are we being less diligent in catching folk in possession, or are we more accommodating?
So there's a few kind of aspects to this. So obviously we're not wanting to criminalise young people at such an early age as well, but actually when you look at the drug supply aspect of it, it's very much intelligence led as well. So we are really reliant on people coming forward and telling us where the problems are, which then allows us to then assess it and develop intelligence to go through doors by using warrants. The drug supply charges for ourselves, yeah, they have reduced, but one of the things we've actually looked at in the division is allocating additional resource into intelligence unit to bolster that, so we can actually try and get and see where that's looking at, because we do recognise it has reduced. But there's, as you've correctly said, there's drugs in our community, sadly. There's still, on a daily basis, we are looking at people who are causing significant harm by targeting on people with drugs, but that doesn't go away. So really, to answer your question, is we've identified it, we've put more resource to it, and we're really intelligence focused on where we need to be to target those that are causing the most harm.
Just one last query. Do you find the communication with the professionals that try and help young people and yourselves, are you getting the right response? If your police, your guys on the ground will know a lot of the lads and lasses that are getting drawn into this. I'm quite sure, and I quite agree, we don't want to criminalise them, but do you feel as that there's a good enough relationship? Is there actions being taken to try and help these young folk?
Yeah, and again, once we identify those individuals that are using drugs or found in possession, we will refer them on to partners as well to get. And again, it's very much like a lot of the public services that we have. We all have resource challenges, we all have demand challenges, but I think what we're looking at is we've got a really good partnership down here between the police and local provisions. I think that's a really important thing, is we can communicate, we do identify the risk on a daily basis, and then we're sharing that information with others within the partnerships to make sure we've got the right response for individuals. So yeah, there is a good partnership down here working together.
Thanks, Chair. Thank you very much. That's very helpful.
Right, thank you for that. Councillor Dorward.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Thank you for the report. Really insightful. I've got 3 questions, if you'll permit, Chair. 2 on the report and 1 kind of additional, but it's not a trick one, so don't worry. It's just something that came up last week. So question 1 is on page 15 on the appendix, and it says that domestic abuse incidents have gone up by 5.9%. But if you turn to page 18 and 24, in terms of crimes and offences, these crimes appear to have been reduced by 3.8%, if my reading is correct. So can I ask why reported incidents are not being investigated as crimes and offences, and what's being done on a multi-stakeholder and multi-agency basis to address this? Are things not coming forward, or are things being dropped, or are they not deemed worthy of criminal investigation? And question 2 is on page 24 in terms of crimes of rape, which says that less have been recorded this year and the detection rate has also fallen. So it would be interesting to know what the rate of reported incidents is in comparison, and why has the detection rate fallen? And my last question, if you'll permit, Chair, is about community policing in general, and attendance at community councils. Certainly the ones that I attend, there hasn't been community police attendance. I understand that there might be other things that they're called to, which is fine, but there hasn't even been any written reports provided to community councils. I'm a councillor in Locher Ward, just for reference. Your previous Chief Super, John Cairns, undertook that community policing wouldn't suffer due to resourcing cuts across Scotland. So I'm wondering if, again, it's to look at this, if you could go back and look at if community police officers can't attend community councils, which I understand, could they at least provide some dialogue to community councils in terms of updating them on a monthly basis? Thank you. That's all from me. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that. On that last point, I think it varies right across the region, the attendance at community councils. We've certainly had 1 or 2 that haven't had them and no police report, yet we've others that have turned up, or there has been a police report. But if you pass it over to you, Tim.
No, thank you very much for your question, Councillor Dorward. In respect of domestic incidents, for the first part of your question, why not all crimes and incidents? So we note that the incidents are higher and number of crimes are lower, and that's been a trend for some time, thought to be down to the increase in third-party reporting. So as you can imagine, each set of circumstances is different in respect of the officer's attendance at these incidents, and that incident is subsequently reviewed by a supervisor as a line of governance to ensure that all aspects have been looked at in respect of that incident to establish whether or not a crime's been committed. So it's very much circumstance dependent. Absolutely high domestic abuse incidents are a high priority for us, so they are scrutinised to make sure that any crimes that have been committed are recorded as such, and in which case a perpetrator is pursued and obviously charged. So in respect of the first aspect of your question, does that answer that for you, Councillor?
Yes, it does, sort of, but yeah, that's fine, thank you.
Thank you. In respect of the detection rate having fallen, there's no specific reason in respect of that. Obviously, we do pursue every avenue of opportunity to make sure that we absolutely target perpetrators, particularly for repeat victims, and we target those high prolific offenders through a number of different governance meetings and with partners working together to make sure that everything we do is victim focused and to make sure ultimately we keep these persons safe and safe from harm. So I have no specific reasoning as to why the detection rate's fallen, but for that reassurance purpose that we absolutely explore all avenues to make sure that if crimes are committed, then that those perpetrators are identified at the soonest opportunity and that all relevant safeguarding is considered and put in place for the victim as well. Does that answer your question in respect of that, Councillor?
It doesn't, but I appreciate that you don't have all the information. So it's satisfactory for the moment. Cheers.
Thank you. And in respect of your final point for attendance at community councils, yeah, I do appreciate that there isn't a kind of consistent approach of that across the region. As you know, we put a high value in respect of our engagement with communities and community policing in general. So as and where we can, we absolutely will attend. However, we can't do that on every opportunity, just with relation to other demands. And we must make sure that we deal with incidents from a high priority and a threat, risk and harm basis. So there are occasions where unfortunately we aren't able to attend. We'll certainly look at that point that you raised in respect of can we provide some information to the community councils if indeed we can't attend all of those. So I can certainly take that away and look at that for you.
Councillor
I can come back. Chair, sorry. The written updates were something that were standardised maybe about a year ago or 18 months ago, and they've fallen off. I appreciate what the chair says, that it's not consistent, so there are some where people get written reports and others where they don't. So it's just the element of consistency. I think the expectation for community councils, certainly those that I attend, is they at least get a monthly report, even if it's, you know, and a D&G or an area report as opposed to specific to the ward. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, and I'll certainly take that away and look at that for you.
Thank you for that. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Yeah, I'd just like to endorse Councillor Dorward's comments in relation to attendance at community council meetings and such like. I'm in Ward 3 and it is very haphazard. I do know that community councils do appreciate when officers are attending and when they can't attend if they can get a report. So it is something that's important to the community. So if we could have a look at that, that'd be great. A couple of questions in relation to vehicles. One is that the report of theft of motor vehicle acquisitive crimes increased by 7%. I did read further on in the report that it was a mixture of theft of and from. It'd be interesting to know, you know, what sort of proportion or what sort of scale it is. Is vehicle theft a big issue, or is it just theft from vehicles? Is it car parks? Is it sort of more likely to be at domestic properties and such like? Another one was in relation to drink and drug driving, and there seems to have been a significant spike this year compared to previous years, and I'm just wondering why that might be. Is it because people are now accustomed to the sort of new level and are just ignoring it, or is it that we've got proactive activities doing that, or is it as a consequence of routine stops, or is it as a consequence of collisions? So it'd be interesting to understand the background to that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. In relation to the first part, we'll split the kind of answer. So for in relation to the thefts, what we've actually seen is quite a significant increase in the number of thefts and attempt thefts from wagons, which are parked at car parks or service stations, which actually has contributed to this number. We've got people who are obviously travelling up the motorway, and using that as their network of travel, both for business but also the criminal aspect as well, where they're going in and looking in within the wagons and the canopies at the back. So we did see an occasion where over a course of a night, about 18 of these vehicles were damaged and kind of broken into. So what we've been doing is we've obviously got a kind of proactive approach to this, and we're trying to be in the area as much as possible. We've done crime prevention talks. We've put things out in social media. We've spoken to local and national haulage companies around this as well, just to see if we can get some information around this, and that some of the without going into the investigations, because some of them are sub judice, but also very kind of confidential at this moment in time, is that the investigation opportunities to find a conclusion to report somebody procurator fiscal is very, very challenging because of the type of vehicles and the kind of conduct to evade detections. But that's certainly what we have seen in the area where there is that increase.
No, thank you for that. That's reassuring that it's more sort of commercial targeted than individuals, but thank you for that.
Thank you. You've got Councillor Beretti on the way.
Oh, sorry, there was a second part
Nicola,
to
you want to come back? Right, okay.
the question, Chair. Sorry, apologies. In respect, thank you for your question, Councillor. In respect of the increase in drink and drug driving, so yeah, over the last year we have unfortunately been monitoring a concerning increase in the number of people detected driving all types of motor vehicles on our roads whilst under the influence of drink or drugs. Most of the increase in detections is in fact due to our officers working hard and using the intelligence-led policing to target those who are irresponsible enough to drive under the influence, whether it be drink or drugs. That's proven effective so far in targeting the right people, and we need to thank our communities who continue to assist us by reporting these individuals who are driving under the influence of drink and drugs. Our analysis of that activity has identified a very sporadic picture, so we were looking to establish if there was a specific trend, and it's evidencing that it's people of all ages using all types of vehicles and at all times of the day. So in response to that, we've been having a lot of discussions with partners, working very closely with Dumfries and Galloway Road Safety Partnership to identify education opportunities to reach as wide as audience as possible, recognising the particular increase in respect of drug driving, that yeah, we need to reach out and raise awareness of the impact of drug driving, because clearly the numbers there are really significant. So we are trying to do that at the moment. We're doing social media messaging again to raise that awareness for the consequences of driving of such a behaviour and clearly the dangers to the public in doing so. We're also holding out enforcement days of actions as well, so we're working collectively with a number of different partners in respect of days of action to complement the daily intelligence-led patrols as well to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Councillor Beretti.
Last but not least, thank you, Chair. Three questions, and the last part is in different components, so thank you very much. First one is the 14 new officers that were mentioned. Now, is that in addition to the previous officers that were mentioned some many, many months ago? Because I think there were 12 or 15 and then it went down to 12. So is that the 14 new officers? Second question, have you had much chance to use naloxone over the last 6 or 7 months, many occasions? Now, my third question is the most complex. We have done numerous occasions, talked about e-vapes and fake e-vapes. And I know that you're working or potentially working with our members of staff to try and get them off the shelf. The statistics on that, where does it fall? Does it fall into the drugs category or the fraud category? And the last part of that question, which is probably going to be a first in UK, I would imagine, or Scotland, have you had any occasions where you've had results of a drug signal on a driver that's maybe been using an e-vape, whether fake or not?
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor. I can answer all of them very quickly. So in terms of the new recruits, no, this is 14 new ones that are coming in. So I actually sit on the rural and remote governance board for recruitment to make sure that Dumfries and Galloway are getting a good number of people. So my responsibility within Dumfries and Galloway portfolio is about personnel and recruitment. So it's actually within my best interests to get as many officers as I possibly can into the division. Your second question there is about naloxone. I can tell you that the officers have used naloxone 9 times on the occasion, and we've also fed that information into our alcohol and drug partnerships about the kind of effects. And interestingly, our officers are now carrying 2 naloxone injection inhalers each. So there is now that opportunity that we know there's potentially, because of some of the drugs that are used, we may need to increase the bits of how naloxone is administered. So we've also looked at how do we increase the number of naloxone inhalers within vehicles as well, and we're kind of exploring that as well, just to kind of maximise our provision. The other thing I would also look to do, and I would totally be remiss if I don't mention the Alcohol and Drug Partnership, about the work that they're actually doing to make sure that as many people within the region have had training across it, and sitting on the Alcohol and Drug Partnership board. It's really impressive when you start hearing all the various shops, libraries, provisions that have been put in place there to make sure that if somebody does have an adverse reaction, then hopefully we can have somebody say. The next bit about e-vapes and fake e-vapes, it's not something that's featuring an awful lot for ourselves, and I would just probably say that although there is a significant harm around them, and if we're identifying individuals for that who are taking these or are becoming unwell as a result of these, then we're obviously referring into partners and sharing that information with public health locally. However, I would also suggest that it's more a kind of fraud aspect, that we're working probably with partners and with trading standards and getting that information in as to who is using vapes, are they meeting correct standards and things, but it's not something I've picked up on a daily basis. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
If the machine would work, yes, that's excellent. Thank you very much. I think that's a very thorough covering of all my questions. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Jameson, you want to come back in?
This is another query that's come up a couple of times from rural community councils, but it's more existential. It's regarding accidents on major roads and diversions. There's been a couple of occasions recently locally that's been raised with me, is that they're sending the traffic on a diversion that's a narrow track, and there's all sorts of gridlock. So the question is, clearly I'm imagining a lot of the responses may be not from local people. It might not be local policemen that are in charge of that, but is there any way that we can improve that situation? Because it just exasperates the situation if you're sending traffic down a road that's either impassable or becomes impassable.
I think in the main, in the short term, it will be a police responsibility when they're attending, but it then goes on to the Dumfries and Galloway Council's Roads Department to set up diversions. But
Yeah.
Jim, Nicola?
Sorry, my mistake. If I'm not mistaken, these are situations where an accident's happened, a fairly serious accident, and they have to divert the traffic, so it's the police that take charge of the diversions. I may be wrong in that assumption.
No,
Yeah, sorry, Nicola.
thank you for your question, Councillor, and obviously more than happy to have any further discussion in respect to this one off table as to any specific circumstances, but generally, as you can imagine, the officers who are initially in attendance at an accident, clearly they've got a number of priorities, first and foremost to make sure that the persons are okay in those vehicles. Therefore, they'll put measures in place in respect of diverting the traffic as an initial course of action, and that'll be balanced just on their judgment at that time as to clearly securing that scene and making sure that the persons involved are safe. Thereafter, ultimately through discussions with local authority colleagues, it will be determined as to the longer term diversion that will be put in place. So absolutely there may be occasions where, yes, at that time that call's made as to what road or route is taken for the diversion. However, it has to be done at the time where decisions are being made and the situation's kind of unfolding, and clearly, as I say, the safety of those individuals involved and getting that scene secured to make sure that no other persons are injured is the priority first and foremost.
No, thank you. I understand all that, and I think in the bigger scheme of things, your priorities are absolutely right. It's just I'm reassured of the fact that the first folk there tend to be local, so they should really know. And there may be no alternative but that diversion. But as I say, the local folk brought it up, so I've asked the question. But I accept the challenges you have to prioritise.
No, thank you so much. And yeah, the officers with their local knowledge will certainly determine the best route that they can with the knowledge that they've got at that time. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that. I have no other speakers, so before I go to recommendation, I do have another speaker. Councillor David Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report today. What do I want to talking about vehicles there? The High Street in Dumfries, every day there's vehicles driving up down there and parking wherever they want. Now, if there's an accident there, who's at fault? Is it because, obviously, the accident, possibly the person that causes the accident, but if the cars are not supposed to be there, is it a responsibility of the council or the police to say they shouldn't be there in the first place? So it's like, it's who's basically at fault, because the vehicles are not supposed to be there within certain times. That's really the question I'd like to ask at this moment. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Just being able to answer this fairly succinctly is that it will be up to the responsibility of the owner of the vehicle that's causing, whether it's the obstruction or illegal parking around that. And what we would also, we are in the area trying to prioritise lots of things in the town centre, but one of the things we do have a look at, if vehicles are causing obstructions, lots of the community do phone us about that, of which we would then kind of triage and see what our response is going to be. But if a vehicle is parked irresponsibly, illegally, and it's and dangerously, then it would fall to the owner of that vehicle.
Okay. Thank you.
I hope that answers your question. And as you're aware, we're also in the process of going down the decriminalisation of parking procedure, which will take some time yet, but it will certainly come along and that will help ease the police burden.
No, just the fact that I understand the person who caused the accident will be at fault, but the fact is there is rules in that laid down and notices up to say vehicles shouldn't be here between the hours of 10 and after 3 o'clock. So if what I'm really saying here, is there anybody else in any organisation that can be drawn into this, or fault could be laid at their door as well? Thank you.
Not just now. Parking is solely the responsibility of Police Scotland at present, although, as I said, we are going down the decriminalisation of parking route. So that will hopefully change over the next year or two.
Thank you.
I have no other members' questions. Before I go to the recommendation, I had 2 questions submitted previously. If I could go to Councillor Ian Howie for his one.
Thank you, Chair. Jim, Nicola, the Council, along with others across the country, are going to a lot of time and expense to introduce 20-mile-an-hour zones in our urban areas. It's just seeking reassurance if these are going to be enforced by the police or not. Basically, if they're not going to be enforced, I don't really see any point in introducing them. Just is there a standard view from Police Scotland regarding the enforcement of 20-mile-an-hour zones?
Thanks for your question, Councillor Howie. In fact, I can confirm a response in respect of that. So There is guidance issued by Transport Scotland that states any decision to lower the speed limit to 20 miles per hour should seek to avoid the need for extensive police enforcement. 20 mile per hour zones will not be routinely enforced by Police Scotland unless absolutely necessary and in the interest of casualty reduction. The only exception to that would be the enforcement of the 20 mile per hour limits outside the schools, which take place on a regular basis currently. Hopefully that answers your question, Councillor.
It helps, Nicola. Do we know how many people have been prosecuted in our area for exceeding 20 mile an hour zones outside schools?
I don't have any details to that in hand, but I can certainly have a look at that for you.
That'd be handy. We could catch up offline, Nicola.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. If that information can also go to all members. And my second question is from Councillor David Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to go back slightly on this one. A few weeks ago, during about tea time, a number of youths kind of marauded about the mid-steeple and that area there. I was actually sitting having a cup of coffee in Greg's, and they had a floor cleaning bollard out of the Lorburn Centre, which eventually they threw it into the fountain. I must admit at that stage, it just got a little bit too much of a approached them. First of all, they denied it. Then one person said they did. They weren't going to take it out. But I said, if you take it out, I'll put it back to the Lorburn Centre. And certainly they did that. I've got to say I put it back for them. And that kind of cleared up the situation. But after that, I spoke to local business person who we went round a number of business premises in the town to see what their effects were and what they were having. And there was a situation with broken windows, kicking balls at the buses. I'm sorry if I'm holding your time up here. I see you looking at your watch there. The thing is, I'm speaking to the business people. It was quite clear that some of them felt intimidated and didn't really want to speak about this. So I wrote to the police about this, and I got a email back, basically automated, saying they were on leave. Now, I heard no more as such, but during that time, the what do you call it, centre, the Bowden Centre was severely damaged with graffiti. And it's a possibility if that had been dealt with sooner, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But the fact is, this is happening at, where are we here? So basically what I'm saying here is, this is happening quite often in the town centre, especially in the early evening. And the fact is, people are being intimidated, shopkeepers are being intimidated, and a lot of them are frightened to say anything about it. So really, I'd like to see, I was a little bit concerned in the time lapse before I actually got a reply from the police at that stage. But I would like to see maybe possibly more police presence, because these youths seem to think they can do as they like, and if anybody says anything to them, they basically intimidate them. And that's we're trying to make our high street busier, and it doesn't look good when visitors are going around and they're marauding about, especially around about the tea time. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor, in respect of antisocial behaviour issues in the town centre in Dumfries. So what I would say initially in respect of the engagement with the retailers and other premises within the town centre, we have our town centre community police officers who are regularly patrolling in the town centre, and I understand a good engagement and relationships with all the local retailers. And certainly what I would say is just to encourage any retailers who are having any issues to certainly raise those concerns with the local officers who, as I say, are regularly patrolling. In respect of general antisocial behaviour issues in the town centre area, we do recognise over a number of weeks there have been certain issues, primarily with a small group of individuals, youth individuals, who are instigating antisocial behaviour in Dumfries town centre. We have subsequently put in an action plan in place to ensure the safety of the public and officers, and to provide reassurance to the public in that regard. We're also working collaboratively with a number of partners, including Youth Justice Social Work, Education and the Scottish Children's Reporting Agency, in order to explore all the prevention opportunities to deter and disrupt this behaviour that's occurring. And as I say, we are very mindful it's a small group of repeat individuals who we will target, and obviously a robust approach will be applied in respect of that. So we also have the CCTV in the area that's monitored, so any issues that are picked up certainly are then conveyed to the officers. And in respect of that action plan, we're also doing a planned incremental process of intervention and disruption that's been put together with partners, and that does involve visible officers present in the town centre, primarily at weekends, because we've established through analysis that it's normally on a Friday or Saturday night. So to provide further reassurance, we have increased patrols in that area as well. Thank you.
I have to say that regarding Friday, Saturday nights, but this is during the week, the working week as such, that's just happening quite openly. And as I say, these people seem to have laws unto themselves. They seem to do as they want and when they like it. I mean, kicking footballs at the local buses and that when they go by. It's not doesn't look good, I must admit. And I think I know it's difficult to stop it, I must admit, but when people are being intimidated, shopkeepers are frightened. They're probably not so keen even to speak to the police sometimes, but they spoke to us, I must admit. And that was one of their concerns, is that this is happening, but they're a little bit intimidated about speaking out about it. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And can I say you're quite right? I did check my watch because unlike every other member in this building, they could see a clock and I can't, and I've got to manage the agenda. But thank you for that. If we could go to the recommendations in that case, we've been asked to scrutinise the performance report of Dumfries and Galloway Council, Dumfries and Galloway from Police Scotland for the period 1st April 2023 to the 29th of February 2024. Members agreed? Thank you. We go on to item 5, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Plan Annual Performance Update, 1st of April 2023 to the 31st of March 2024. We've got Andy McKenna and Lucy Donaldson here to speak to the report. Andy, is there anything you'd like to add?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I'm pleased and delighted to post another positive report to the committee for this reporting period. In addition to the standard covering and performance report, I've also included the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Dumfries and Galloway Partnership Working Evidence 2023-24 document, which is Appendix B, page 55. I hope this document shows a wide range of partnership working initiatives that have taken place across Dumfries and Galloway and how it has contributed towards positive outcomes for our communities. We continually work in partnership for the good of our communities, and through various initiatives, my staff have forged strong relationships with numerous important partners. From how we work together at instance, multi-agency training exercises, water safety and youth engagement, to our community safety work and how we use our estates. We work with our Blue Light colleagues and other public, private and third sector partners to help us deliver more for Dumfries and Galloway. This allows us to maintain a service which is effective, efficient and also delivers best value. My staff are key to successful collaborative working. Every day they show commitment, professionalism and dedication to the communities they serve, and they should be commended for this work ethic. Their expertise and experience are essential to delivering successful initiatives. My thanks must also go to many partners that we have worked with over the year who have shown the same level of commitment and dedication. Out with a standard covering and performance report, I want to give committee members an update from a national perspective. The service has launched its pre-consultation survey as it considers future changes to the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. The survey, Shaping Our Future Service, Your Say, is open until the 30th of June and marks the first stage in our engagement with staff, internal and external partners and communities. I will be delivering a presentation to all elected members later this afternoon, and I'd be happy to take any questions on this subject at that time. Lastly, I would like to inform the committee that I will be leaving my post as local senior officer for Dumfries and Galloway and moving to the post of local senior officer for the City of Glasgow. I have informed the chair and key partners of my departure, which is scheduled at the end of the month. And my replacement has been announced, which will be Area Commander Derek Keaton. Derek Keaton is currently the local senior officer working in Perth and Kinross, Angus and Dundee. I would like to thank the committee for their continued support over the last years. It's been a pleasure to work in Dumfries and Galloway. I am sad to be leaving, however, I'm more grateful to have worked with a great team and the many key partners. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Andy. I will open the floor to members' questions. Councillor Jamieson, sir.
Thank you. It's a general question. I know the sort of pressures all services are under. I'm wondering if you're content with response times. I was looking for it in there, but I don't see anything. It may be in there, and it's not a leading question. I just wonder if you're content with response times to fires, etc. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong person there. I thought I looked a bit confused there.
Chair, I'm content with the response times. That is also, you can relate that to our availability within the report. But we have saw over the years, we've saw a 2% increase in our availability compared to the same period last year. So I'm satisfied that we've got the appropriate cover throughout Dumfries and Galloway, and we're meeting our target times for any incident that we attend.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you, that's reassuring.
Councillor McFarlane. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, sorry, Chair, I'm sitting here talking to myself. Yeah, congratulations, Andy, on your step up. I'm guessing that the move to Glasgow is a promotion, but if it's not, commiserations, because I imagine your workload is going to increase significantly. Thanks for the report. I'm looking at page 6 on your report, which talks about age and gender profile in relation to domestic safety, accidental dwelling, fire casualties. And it's significant, although the numbers are very low, that the 80-plus-year-old females, I'd be interested to know what sort of environment that those fires were, if you're able to provide me with that information. And then when you move on to deliberate fire setting on page 9, the numbers are pretty much just behind where we were last year. So I'd be interested to know if it's a consistent type of fire that we're having there, and if that can sort of be identified down to areas, because on the following page under non-domestic fires by nature of, we've got 20% deliberate, which seems quite a high figure. So I'd be interested if you could assist us with that, please. One last point was in relation to on-call retained duty system, where Gatehouse and New Galloway, which are both in my ward, seem to be falling a little bit behind in certain areas, and I wonder if you could give us an update on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks very much, Councillor, for your numerous questions. I think I've caught a few of them. If I do miss any, please just remind me. So first of all, you had cited about page 6 about our age and gender profile, where we have had 80 plus within the female category. What I would like to say in that is that when it comes to domestic and accidental safety, our priority is on the high risk visits. So again, it is identifying people that are over 55 that stay alone, maybe have mobility problems, and maybe have prescribed drugs. So that is our target audience, because that is where we are seeing the highest risk, and that would reflect on obviously you identifying that we have 3 female casualties over 80 years of age that's been and that's had obviously a dwelling fire. What I would also like to bring to your attention as well on that page is that the extent of harm as well. So the extent of harm, we've only had 1 serious injury. I don't know where that serious injury is within that category. but usually a lot of these injuries is usually just first aid at the scene, or also just slight injuries and just obviously an assessment to hospital. Is that sufficient, Councillor?
I think the only other
Yeah.
one was maybe clarify it's not a promotion on this occasion, but he does have the bonus of being closer to home, so it'll certainly cut his travelling time. Councillor McFarlane, does that answer your questions?
It certainly answered the first part. I mean, I have an interest because I chair the IJB, and clearly there's an issue in relation to elderly care and some of the debate that's taking place at the moment. The other thing I asked about was the deliberate fires on page 9, the fact that they're very similar in rate to what they have been last year. And then when we flipped over to page 10, it was saying that non-domestic fires, there's 20% incident which are deliberate, which again causes concern because obviously it would suggest that there's some criminality there. And then last, it was in retained duty system for New Galloway and Gatehouse. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Councillor. Just for reminding me, so page 9 in the deliberate fire setting, we have saw a slight reduction since last year, and quite a significant reduction with a 3-year average of 5% as well, which is welcomed. Any deliberate fire which has any criminality whatsoever, we have got an agreement with Police Scotland. We asked for their attendance, so again we can take that up and we can investigate and try to identify the individuals that are carrying out these antisocial behaviour acts. In relation to the non-domestic fire safety, and obviously in page 10 of that, we have saw 20% as a deliberate. When you look at non-domestic fire safety itself, and you look at the type of categories that's in there, you have got some private garages and shed. That is the highest at 12, and I would say there is probably a link there in relation to the antisocial behaviour when it comes to garages and shed. And once again, what I would say is, if we are attending any of these sort of instances, then we are requesting the attendance of Police Scotland. So again, we can take that further and to try to identify the persons who are involved in this criminal act. When you're looking at the 2 stations within your own ward, which are Gatehouse and
New Galloway.
So when you look at Gatehouse, I am aware that they fall below, obviously, the national average here. In Gatehouse, I have some significant challenges with personnel over a short period of time. We have saw 2 resignations, I've had a long-term absence, and I've had a career break in there. However, the career break has returned, long-term absence as well has returned, and we're seeing some recruitment coming in that station to increase the numbers. So I'm very, very hopeful that we do see an improvement within Gatehouse Fire Station, Councillor. With New Galloway, again, the focus is on recruitment, absolutely, to try to get the recruitment up in New Galloway. I've got some figures here for you, Councillor, in relation to how many staff we've got in New Galloway. So in New Galloway ourselves, we are just slightly under our target operating model for New Galloway. And currently we've got 8 staff in that station. So again, we are sitting with 2 staff under, but we have got a trainee starting, and they're going through the process as well. So that will get that station up a wee bit as well. But again, hopefully you will see an improved availability figure within New Galloway as well over the next 6 months.
Thanks for that, and congratulations and good luck in future. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Just for the record, it's no promotion. I don't get any extra money for the extra responsibilities, but thank you anyway.
Councillor Slater.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I wish the gentleman all the best in his new job. What it is, it's on page 33. It's about deliberate fire settings. Now, a number of large buildings in this area have been burnt down in the last few years. I just wonder, should these buildings, as the fire brigade, get any reason they could actually ask them to fit in CCTV or still have a fire system going back to the fire station? Because these are expensive buildings, really, and they're just been boarded up and burnt down. I just wonder if there's any other way the fire service could look at that to protect these buildings, because once they're gone, they're gone. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. Can you just confirm the page number, please, so I know what part of the report I'll be speaking about?
Page 33, and it's 3.7, deliberate fire settings.
Thanks, Councillor. I've got the page now, thanks. So we're talking about the deliberate fire setting. Again, what we saw here just now is we have a targeted approach to this. We have saw a welcome reduction in the North Western Fleece Ward at 25%. And we do work with the owners of these premises as well. Again, one for security aspect to it, to make sure the premises are secure. And secondly as well, if we can provide any advice as well and do that engagement piece to make sure obviously what they've got the appropriate fire detection system as well. In relation to any CCTV, then that would be up to the duty holder, the responsible person, if they felt that there was a need for that. It's not something we would recommend. We wouldn't obviously request that, but if the duty holder felt that there was a need for that, then that would be up to themselves. But we certainly wouldn't request CCTV, and would make sure the premise is secure, and again they've got the adequate protection in place. So if there was a fire, then again we get duly notified.
Yes, thank you for that. But I still feel that CCTV footage, I know you don't ask for that, but on a number of occasions that will probably give the answers to the questions of probably who did it, and also time, dated, everything. And probably if they were arrested, the CCTV would stand up in court. It's just the fact that these buildings are quite often being lost to deliberate fire for one reason or another. And it's a bit sad to see them being destroyed and lost forever when they could be used again. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor. I think for myself, as I said, we do work with Police Scotland. We work also as well with the community wardens. The community wardens are our eyes and ears within the communities. What I've tried to show in the partnership report as well is that we're doing a lot of youth work and youth engagement as well, and again to try to lower the amount of antisocial behaviour activity within these areas within the communities.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Slater, I assume that's a legacy hand you've got?
Yes, it is. Yes, I'll turn it off. Thank you.
Okay, I have no other speakers. I do have another speaker, a late one, Councillor Beretti.
I was waving earlier, but David got in first. Yeah, thank you, Andy. I'm getting used to you now. I've just discovered you're leaving. Last time I asked this question, or gender profile of the service, is it changing? What's the current and what's the recruitment aspects within the region? And just to make sure that you don't go away from D&G without me asking a question about lithium, have you had any lithium fires of any description at all so far?
Thanks, Councillor, for your question. We've had two reported fires that has involved lithium batteries. One was in a computer repair shop, I believe, and another one as well was within a premise where it was a battery from an iMop, a small cleaning device. Again, both of those instances, the premise had adequate protection. raised the alarm, and we attended and successfully extinguished in both fires. Relatively small scale compared to the incidents we've had over the last 12 hours. In relation to the gender, it's something that we are focused on. We do need a workforce that represents the communities that we serve. I think what you saw today, just with the youth volunteer schemes, just looking at it from that perspective, you saw 2 of the youth volunteers being female, and one of them saying that absolutely she has aspirations to join the fire service. That's one aspect that we're looking at, again, through the youth volunteers. Again, when you look at my own management team as well, I've got 2 female station commanders. Lucy's sitting beside me just now. And again, they're not only role models just for females, they're role models for everybody to join the fire service. And there was a national spread there for Claire, who's our station commander, to try to promote, obviously, underrepresented groups into the fire service. Another thing we're doing, and we've recognised this as well, we do get a lot of applicants from females, but it's trying to break down the barriers. And what we've done is we've introduced a buddy system into the recruitment programme. So when the female applicants are going up for the practical selection tests, we buddy them in with a female firefighter. And the feedback that we've had just now for that is it's really, really positive. And we're seeing an increase in uptake in the amount of female applicants coming through, which is really, really encouraging. But we can do more as a service, we can do more as an area, we can do more. And it's not just females, it's from other underrepresented groups as well, Councillor.
Thank you for that. We've got the perfect gender balance today with both police and fire, so we're all right. I have no further speakers. If we could go to the recommendations in that case. We've been asked to recommend to scrutinise performance of Dumfries and Galloway from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for the period 1st April 2023 to 31st March 2024. Members agreed? Right. I have no other business other than, as you've heard, Area Commander Andy McKenna is being transferred to Glasgow, and this is according to his last meeting with us. I'm sure you'll join me in thanking Andy. I've certainly enjoyed working with Andy in the last year or so that I've been back in this position, for his time and commitment with us here in Dumfries and Galloway, and we sincerely wish you the very best for the future. Thank you, Andy.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thank you.
I have no other urgent business, and the date of the next meeting is this 2 p.m. Thursday, the 5th of December, nearly Christmas time already. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Chair. See you later.